This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolfe. And if you're hearing this, congratulations. You've made it through another week of democracy duct taped to a shopping cart, rolling downhill toward a fireworks factory while the band plays Don't Worry, Be Happy over and over again. America isn't divided. It's two teams playing tug of war with the emergency brake on a train that's already on fire and headed for a cornfield full of dynamite. The headlines? Still unhinged. The politics? Still for sale. And the national mood? Somewhere between caffeine withdrawal and a midlife crisis, functioning on autopilot with the check engine light on. You might be listening in your car, or you're out on a walk, or still hiding in the laundry room with the dog pretending you don't live here anymore. But you're here, and that matters, because this podcast, it's not polished by consultants or filtered through a corporate boardroom. Just one voice, raw and real. It's just me, a microphone, my brain full of unresolved commentary, and a golden retriever next to me wondering why the hell I'm yelling in a closet again. Don't forget, later in this Friday edition, I've got a fresh round of news from the edge of sanity. You know, the kind of stories that make you pause mid-coffee and say, "You've got to be kidding me." Nope, not kidding. And yes, odds are Florida's involved. But first, let's dive in. Because while the headlines keep spinning like a Roomba on Red Bull, somebody's got to grab the mic and say what we're all thinking. That somebody is me. Okay, let's roll. Last episode, I told you about sections of the U.S. Constitution that were disappearing from an official government website. At the time, there was no clear explanation. And that's why I brought it to your attention. Well, here's an update. This happened on the Library of Congress Constitution's annotated site. The missing sections, the end of Article 1, Section 8, and all of Sections 9 and 10, they were restored later that same day. The library called it a coding error. But here's what matters. The fix came only after the issue went public and after Congressman Mark Takano sent a formal letter demanding answers. So yes, it was corrected, but it took outside pressure to make it happen. A coding error? Maybe. But in an era where Trump and MAGA are working every angle they can, you never take your eyes off moves like this. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. And in other news, here's the lightning round recap. The plans for the Putin and Trump to meet alone, the meeting in Alaska, had shifted at the last minute to include advisors. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, joined the U.S. President when he began his meeting with Putin today, who was also accompanied by advisors. Now, President Trump and Vladimir Putin just wrapped up their meeting earlier in Alaska at a U.S. military base. Trump said he was open to security guarantees for Ukraine, but not through NATO. He also claimed business with Russia would stay frozen until there's a peace deal. Putin, for his part, stuck to his wish list: more land, fewer Western ties, which is about as surprising as finding vodka in his minibar. And true to form, Trump took a few shots at Europe, saying they needed him to broker peace because apparently Google Maps is still too advanced. The whole thing had the energy of a tense family reunion where one relative swore they'd turn over a new leaf, and the other showed up wearing the same old villain cape. Trump banked on a big headline and a photo op. Putin played the long game, treating every handshake like another move on his geopolitical chessboard. Meanwhile, Europe was sitting at the kids' table, wondering if the grown-ups were going to settle the fight or just start throwing dinner rolls. Will it change anything? Maybe, but if history's any guide, it's more likely to go down as one of those scenes where the music swells, the credits roll, and you realize absolutely nothing got resolved. And true to form, Trump said they had a productive meeting, but no deal. So basically, the only thing that happened is we all lost 2 hours. From Putin's poker table, we go to Abbott's game of musical chairs. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has called a second special legislative session to push through a Republican-backed map that would grant the GOP 5 additional U.S. House seats. That's after the first session collapsed due to Texas House Democrats staging a walkout, refusing to return to the state in order to deny the legislature a quorum and stall the redistricting vote. Now, meanwhile, the GOP-controlled Texas Senate managed to approve the new map, with 2 Democratic senators staying behind to meet quorum, even as House Democrats continue to hold firm out of state. Well, they decided to come back. On the other side of the aisle, former President Barack Obama lent support to the walkout, praising the Texas Democrats in a virtual call and standing with them as they took their protest across state lines. Now, in response, California Governor Gavin Newsom is launching a statewide strategy to counter the GOP plan. He's pushing a special election in November to authorize new Democratic-leaning congressional maps, potentially shifting 5 U.S. House seats the other way. Time is shaping up as a full-blown redistricting showdown. And Texas Republicans pushing hard to reshape their congressional map mid-decade, House Democrats resisting by denying quorum, and California readying its own response in a bid to neutralize GOP gains. And the lunacy never ends while we, the citizens of America, suffer. Okay, everyone. It's time for our Friday edition, News from the Edge of Sanity. Because if Putin and Trump weren't surreal enough, wait until you hear what's happening in the places that make Florida look like the voice of reason. First stop, Fort Collins, Colorado, where apparently Mother Nature decided to throw logic into a wood chipper this week. So residents started spotting wild rabbits. Let me repeat that. They started spotting wild rabbits with tentacles. I'm talking long, dark, twisted growths sprouting out of the heads of rabbits and their faces, like some low-budget sci-fi monster that escaped from the reject pile at a Star Wars creature shop. Now, social media went nuts. People were calling them zombie rabbits, alien rabbits, mutant rabbits. One guy swore he saw one trying to order calamari at a Red Lobster. Just joking. Now, here's the truth. It's not alien DNA. It's not a zombie apocalypse starter kit. It's Shope papillomavirus. That's a virus that causes these wart-like tumors, sometimes so big they look like little antlers on the rabbits, or in this case, the kind of tentacles you'd expect to see wrapping around a submarine. Totally harmless to humans and pets, but to your sanity, that's a different story. Picture this. You're out walking the dog at dusk. The shadows are long, the air is still, and suddenly a rabbit with what looks like a sea monster attached to its head hops into your path. Your brain screams, H.P. Lovecraft. Your bladder says, we're going now. Local wildlife experts say it's not uncommon. It's been around apparently since the 1930s, which means these rabbits have been cosplaying as horror villains for nearly a century, and we're just now noticing. Bottom line, they're not dangerous, but they will haunt your dreams. And if you're in Fort Collins and see one, maybe just wave politely at the rabbit and hope it doesn't wave back. Okay, on to Adelaide, Australia, where apparently the courtroom drama comes with its own board game night. Bethany Hunt, age 53, is facing charges for allegedly dog-napping a Maremma sheepdog named Alfredo. And this week, during a break in court during her trial, she didn't pace the hallway, call her lawyer, or sit quietly and reflect. Nope. She set up a Scrabble board, started a full-on word battle with herself. Witnesses say she calmly played in the court interview room, flipping tiles like she was at a Sunday game night. No stress, no panic, just hunting for a triple word score while awaiting her legal fate. She also had a stack of books with her because, why not? If you're going to be accused of stealing a dog, you might as well catch up on your reading list. Then nearly 2 hours later, she strolls out of the building, bundled up in a beanie and scarf like she's leaving a ski lodge instead of a courthouse. And the only thing she says is, "Where's my car?" Not a word about the dog Alfredo, not "I didn't do it," not "justice will prevail," just car. The alleged crime? Alfredo went missing, was later found safe, but not before a citywide search turned into a headline maker. Now Hunt's case is moving forward, and so is her Scrabble game, apparently. It's the kind of bizarre courtroom image you can't unsee, the accused quietly spelling out words while the justice system literally waits on her. And somewhere, I hope, Alfredo is lying in the sun thinking, humans are weird. Okay, that's enough spelling trouble. Join me as we fly north where a bird, a fish, and a power line walk into a bar and set the place on fire. British Columbia, Canada, our next stop, where this week Mother Nature decided to write her own slapstick sketch. Fire crews were called out to a small wildfire, and when they traced the cause, it wasn't lightning. It wasn't careless campers. It wasn't even the usual guy with a welding torch in dry grass. No, it was an osprey. This bird had just pulled a fresh fish out of a nearby river, a decent catch, dinner for the night for him, and somewhere between the water and the nest, the osprey fumbled, the fish fell, and landed directly on a high-voltage power line. Now, fish are great in a frying pan, but they're also great conductors of electricity, thanks to all that water and minerals. The second it hit the power line, there was a blinding electrical arc, sparks rained down, and dry brush below went up like it had been waiting for the cue. By the time firefighters arrived, the blaze had spread to about 1.5 acres. It took 4,800 gallons of water and several hours to get it under control. No buildings were damaged, no people or animals were hurt, and the osprey itself escaped without injury. The fish? Not so lucky. Officials say it's not unusual for birds to cause trouble with power lines, but usually it's the bird making contact, not the takeout dinner order. But in this case, the takeout order managed to shut down a chunk of the power grid and start a wildfire in the same move. Wildfire danger in the region remains high, so authorities are asking residents to be on alert because in British Columbia, even your dinner might set the neighborhood on fire. That was your news from the edge of sanity. Now a regular segment on Fridays. A friendly reminder, listeners, that while the headlines are terrifying, the sidelines are completely unhinged. I'm not saying the world's unwell, but it just tried to high-five a ceiling fan and lost 3 fingers. Wolfpack listeners, if you've got opinions, rants, or a spontaneous conspiracy theory involving your neighbor's garden gnome, or maybe you just want to email me a photo of a half-crushed donut floating in a kiddie pool, with a caption below that reads, "I laughed, I cried, I challenged my toaster to a staring contest. Thanks, Jeff." Email me anytime, madworldtalk@gmail.com, madworldtalk@gmail. Write me something sharp, write me something completely unhinged, or write me something I could get printed on a t-shirt and regret instantly. Or call my 24/7 voicemail line, 833-399-9653. It's toll free. And when you call, give me your best impression of someone explaining TikTok to their 90-year-old uncle. And do it as Marlon Brando in The Godfather. And please leave a review on Apple or Spotify, because it's the only way this podcast gets noticed, instead of being buried under podcasts people listen to while folding laundry. Without your stars and comments, Apple and Spotify think I'm just a guy having a philosophical conversation with a sock puppet during visiting hours. This has been A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back Monday. because someone has to say the shit that no one else will. And apparently, that job's mine. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, stay skeptical, stay focused. Most of all, stay hopeful.